From social distancing here in the States, welcome to the GCN show.
Welcome to the GCN show.
This week, should you cycle outside during the current coronavirus pandemic, even if you're allowed? We speak to someone who might know the answer.
We've also got all the latest cycling news and all of the cycling inspiration that you could possibly wish for at a time like this. You have got trousers on this week, Si, haven't you?
I have, mate. Yeah, check these out. These are my working from home trousers.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, team tracksuit from 2005. These ones. Yeah.
Looks like that's when you last washed them as well, is it? This week in the world of cycling, we learnt that post-lockdown solo riding has just got easier, and that is thanks to a new aero rucksack that has been launched by Rafa.
Yeah, unfortunately though, we've already done the science in the wind tunnel, and actually it turns out that if you want to go fast and carry luggage, what you actually need is a giant saddlebag to act as a bum fairing. Now, how big that saddlebag can be depends very much on your own proportions. I can actually get a laptop in mine.
Yeah, whereas mine is absolutely tiny, Si. We also learnt this week of some excellent news for coffee lovers, and that is the fact that coffee does not dehydrate you.
No, so Asker Jürgen Drupp took to Twitter to remind us of a 6-year-old piece of research, presumably timed, in order for us not to worry about drinking coffee and training indoors, where you will inevitably sweat 10 times more than normal.
Yeah, although if you're sweating 10 times more than normal, Si, you're at risk of flooding your house in lockdown, I would imagine. We also learned that at the moment, over in LA, gravel is cancelled.
That's right. So Phil Gaiman pointed out on Twitter that all the parks and trails across LA County are currently shut due to coronavirus.
Yeah, although if there's one man who wouldn't notice social isolation, it's got to be Phil Gaiman, isn't it?
Are you trying to say that Phil's got no mates then?
No. For his Strava, he has to be alone for those KOMs.
Ah, yeah. Well, I suppose he probably does have mates, doesn't he? Yeah. Now, we've been saying over the last few weeks, the kind of riding that you're allowed to do at the moment very much depends on where in the world you live. So for some of us, we're not going to be allowed to ride outside at all. Others of us are going to be allowed to ride outside just as long as we are on our own.
But guidelines notwithstanding, even if you are currently allowed to ride outside, there's a very real question at the moment as to whether or not you should.
Yeah, now fortunately, Dan, there are some clear-cut examples of what not to do, like this British Ironman triathlete who last week posted a 325-kilometre long bike ride. He copped an awful lot of grief for it. None of it, weirdly, had anything to do with his socks.
Well, he might have been wearing socks, we don't actually know that bit.
No, okay, that is true. And technically, he was actually within the government guidelines as well. He only went out for one bike ride. Unsurprisingly, he could only do one that day because it was 9.5 hours long. And he also started and finished at his home as well, notwithstanding the fact that he ended up riding around the whole of Norfolk.
Yes, but what about normal people, and what if they only do a ride that's 1 hour?
Well, first of all, here are the risks. Even if you practice social distancing, you have a greater chance of either spreading or catching coronavirus if you ride outside compared to riding indoors, staying in your house.
And there's also that additional slim risk that you might have an accident and therefore suddenly become an extra burden on what is already an overstretched health service.
Yeah. On the flip side though, there are many positives to exercising outside. One of the reasons you'd think why governments are so reluctant to impose full lockdown until absolutely necessary. So the benefits of simply being outside in the sunlight are well documented. And while for cyclists, at least indoor riding is an option, for most people out there, meaningful indoor exercise is really restricted.
Yeah, exercise makes everybody healthy, which in turn lowers the risk of some other health issues, which means you're less likely to be hospitalised. And there are some well-documented things out there that show that there's a massive benefit to your mental well-being that's associated with exercise.
Yeah, so it's a pretty complicated picture, isn't it? And it's for that reason that we've had to bring in some help. Earlier, I spoke to David Liriskog, who is a postdoctoral researcher in ethics at Oxford University's Psychiatry Department. And Dan, I'm not going to lie, I needed some new science glasses for this one.
Oh my word. They're not science glasses. You stole them from Harry Potter, didn't you?
No, these are like my philosophy science glasses, mate. I'm going for the... Well, yeah, all right.
David, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cool. Firstly, can you give us a quick lesson on how ethics research works? Are you able to tell us the right answer to things, or is it more about equipping us with the tools to make decisions for ourselves? What's the basic principle?
There's a certain amount of tasks that you need to perform to sort of uncover what's at stake. If you take the case of outdoor training during this pandemic, it's a very difficult and complex issue, and there cannot really be an all-encompassing correct answer to the question, what should we do in this sense, especially since your audience is multinational. There are different regulations everywhere at this point.
Okay, so we can have like an ethical decision-making toolbox, which actually is something that a lot of cyclists probably need anyway, particularly professional cyclists. What questions then should we be asking with this specific one in mind?
Right, so there are various ways we can structure this. I mean, there are many frameworks. I think to make it easy to sort of remember, there is one way we can structure it through the sort of classic 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. And by structuring sort of our thinking through those questions, we can sort of decide what the right thing to do might be in this particular situation. If we take the first W, that is who, you need to ask yourself, who are you? And not in an existentialist or philosophical way, who am I truly, or anything like that, but rather, what are your needs? For example, do you have any mental health challenges that you need to be mindful of that requires you to be outdoors and exercising? So what will you be doing? There's the question of what exactly are you going to do? Are you going to train outside or inside? It's a fundamental question in these times. And are there ways that you could sort of adapt your training to make it safe or putting others less at risk? Actually, when you're doing things. So if you go exercise early in the morning, maybe you're at less risk of running into people, or when people are typically working. Then we have where you're doing something, and that you have to ask yourself, is it reasonable to be out in maybe a crowded London park all day? And then finally, and I think most importantly, is the question of why. That is, are you heading out to exercise this time on this day because you need it for your health and well-being? Or is it more that you're bored and you just usually do it?
Now, one thing that you touched on when we were talking before was about something called social signaling, in that by cycling outside, you're effectively sending a message out that could actually make people quite irate. Is that sort of another important decision-making factor that we need to take into consideration?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of the discussions now that are going on are about putting others or yourself at risk for spreading the virus, or potentially getting into an accident and requiring the assistance of NHS. But social signaling is a growing issue, I would say. I mean, we have seen in the cycling communities and in other sporting communities that people get enraged by others' training. And I think one of the things that we need to consider in this case, and I touched upon it a little bit when I discussed where you're exercising, and there is something that you're signaling by, for example, going training somewhere else, if that you care less about people in that area, for example, about spreading the virus over there. So where you are when you're outside moving and how you're exercising outside, if you're in group or if you're by yourself, is signaling to others how much you care and how much we should care as a society about this.
Great stuff. Right, thank you very much, David. That's it's been absolutely fascinating, and I think there's something there that we can all take back from that one. I will now remove my science glasses at the end of this call. Cheers, David.
All right, thank you.
Now, without wishing to cloud your moral compasses in any way, we're basically now going to dangle some amazing photos of actual bike rides outside in front of your face.
We are sorry about that, but it is time for the weekly GCN Inspiration. This is where you upload your photos and videos to the GCN app. We pick our favourite 3, and each of those receives a prize. And we're going to start this week, obviously, with third prize, which is an Elite Fly Duo pack of water bottles. And that winner this week is Banker. who put, "We are fortunate to still be able to move freely in Sweden. Saturday commute just as the sun rises and no traffic, epic."
Wow, that does look cool, doesn't it?
It does look very cool indeed, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, that's inspiring me. Even if I'm on the turbo trainer, that is still an inspirational photo, whichever way you look at it. That's brilliant. Fair play. Right then, second prize is a Strive t-shirt bundle, which is pretty cool. And this one goes to Gunnosaurus Rob. Of course, the weather is amazing, and now we're all stuck inside. I think you must be in the UK right now. Still, I timed my government-approved 1 hour of exercise quite well, passing through South Sea to capture this. Ooh, wow, yeah, check that out. Nice little sunset photo there.
Yeah, as ever, we are suckers for sunsets and sunrises.
Yes.
And it's another sunny shot that won this week. It came in from Angry Puffer, who said he's making the best of social distancing, riding solo deep in the Everglades in South Florida in the USA. And your prize is a GCN indoor training bundle. We thought this would cater to all of you who are having to stay inside at the moment. But this is the photo. As I said, it's sunny. And it's stunning.
It is an absolute belter of a photo, isn't it? Normally, Dan, I wouldn't be inspired by a completely flat landscape. I kind of like a hill or two and maybe some trees. But there is something about that. Maybe it's the clouds. It just looks great, doesn't it?
Just
maybe
a
it's
great
the fact that we're
photo,
stuck inside and that looks like freedom.
It's the fact that he's managed to capture the horizon as being horizontal.
That's
I think,
pleasing
is why you
as
like
well.
it so much.
You could just imagine Braveheart running across the horizon, couldn't you? Freedom! Yeah.
Right, well done to all 3 of our prize winners this week. Don't forget to get involved over on the GCN app ready for next week, even if it's with your own indoor trainer setup. And also, if you have won a prize over the last few weeks, please be patient with us. Things are taking a little bit longer to get posted off at the moment, as I'm sure you'll understand.
It's now time for Cycling Shorts.
Cycling Shorts now, and we're going to start by rounding up some more good news stories from this week in cycling. Remembering we've already had the coffee one, which basically can't be topped.
Yeah, that's true. But there have been a lot of other good news stories as well.
We're
going to start with the Sufferfest, who have just launched a suite of training sessions and plans aimed at athletes who are currently confined indoors due to the current crisis. Plus, you can currently get a 1-month free subscription to the Sufferfest too.
That is brilliant, isn't it? A month free subscription. Plus, you can then do all your secret training and then absolutely crush it when group rides return. Although, no, we should stress the Chief Science Officer, Neil Henderson, is prioritising the health of your immune system over just absolutely destroying yourself on the home trainer. So,
oh, are they? I wish he'd prioritised my immune system when he was coaching me last year.
I think you probably realised there was no hope for your immune system, Dan. He's seen what you've been doing to yourself over the last few years.
At least 8 mineral wards myself.
Anyway, another great news story. This is from Sarah Pierce, whose husband Nick works as an ICU nurse and is, as you can imagine, absolutely smashing himself at the moment. Meanwhile, she has secretly been restoring for the last 3 months this specialised hard rock and presented him with it on his birthday. How cool is that bike, Dan?
That is unbelievably cool. Imagine having a wife that gets you a present like that on your birthday.
Mate, you're filming at home. You can't raise your voice like that.
I have just realised how much trouble I could be in. Anyway, I'm going to move swiftly on.
Yes, do that.
And many of us are currently trying to entertain ourselves at home, but not just ourselves, also our kids as well. Currently, Jude, in fact, is running the camera, so if it doesn't look very good, I can blame him. But David Freund has been teaching his son Paxton how to ride the rollers.
Looks smoother than us already, Dan. Although perhaps that's not too hard on rollers, is it, you and me? But anyway, one final cool story. This was from Emily Groves, who's a cycle coach based in Bradford here in the UK. She's taught over 3,000 kids in the last 8 years, but recently she's been posting videos to social media of her own 2 children, Tobias and Evelyn, who are 5 and 3, with some really cool instructional videos. So here is the one-handed balance drill.
And here is the bidon collecting drill. Brilliant stuff, and actually it's something that we've encouraged Hank to work on during his time at home as well. Now, if you would like to get your kids involved in doing the same thing, you can follow Emily on Twitter @EmilyCycle or on Instagram @ReadySteadyPedal. Moving on, last week on the GCN show, we mentioned companies such as Santini, who are now making things like face masks to help patients, doctors and nurses alike. And since then, we've had a whole host of other cycling companies who are doing something similar.
Yeah, so first up, actually, it's an events company, Gravel Epic. Ollie, sadly, was going to be in Morocco at one of their events just at the weekend, but clearly that got cancelled. But anyway, their two CEOs, Tim Kramer and Ralph Burke, are going to try and raise money instead for face masks, and they're going to do so by attempting to Everest on smart trainers this Sunday, which sounds particularly unpleasant and well worth supporting. So there's a link to their GoFundMe page in the description beneath this video.
Does sound painful, that one, doesn't it? We should also give another mention, in fact, to 3T, because they have recently retooled their carbon manufacturing factory in Italy. So instead of making their exquisite tonneau cranks, to making parts of respirator masks instead.
Equally exquisitely manufactured, you might think. Now, there are, as Dan said, some really great news stories around. So if you have spotted any, then either stick them in the comment section down below or upload them to the GCN app, because we would love to see, and also love to share them with you again. Now, there is, of course, no pro racing going on at the moment. You don't need me to tell you that. But the Tour de France organisers have given us all a deadline by which they will have made their final decision about whether or not the Tour can take place this summer. And the date for your diaries is May the 15th. So keep your fingers crossed up to that point.
Maybe they should have a quick chat with David about the ethical decision-making framework.
Maybe they should. I tell you what, that'd be a tough decision, wouldn't it? But
it would.
Yeah.
And whilst we're on the subject of racing hypothetical questions, Mathieu Vanderpool has said that he will hypothetically miss the hypothetical cyclocross season should some of the spring classics get moved to October.
Interesting. Interesting that he's going to stick to his plan, Dan, no matter when the classics are. But yeah, I do hope we get to see some action this year. But anyway, there we go. Now, there are 1 or 2 million conspiracy theories going on at the moment about the COVID-19 pandemic, including one that I read about recently that aims to pin the whole thing on a member of the US military cycling team, who the conspiracy theorists also claim is related to the DJ Benny Benassi, which, well, that bit's been clearly debunked, but I don't suppose that's of any relevance to the average conspiracy theorist. Anyway, I did have a chuckle when I saw this tweet from James Stout, who said, "I'm frankly disappointed in the cycling Twitter conspiracy crew that no one has suggested that COVID-19 is actually a ploy by Ineos to delay the Tour so that Froome can recover." It's a good point, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in that?
No, but still, it's...
No, I don't either. But whilst we're talking about Chris Froome, you need look no further than the 4-time Tour de France winner for the ultimate indoor cycling setup. Check it out. He has got a full Wahoo Smart indoor setup. In the background there, you can see what looks like a huge gym.
That must have been where he's been building his guns up, Dan.
Yeah, he's also got a personalised Pinarello. In the background there, he's also got what looks to be a Pinarello museum full of yellow and pink bikes. He's got a wheel rack, and he's also got a huge mirror so he can check himself out as he's riding.
That's the bit you're jealous of, isn't it, Dan?
Oh yeah, it is, yeah. I mean, I can take or leave the gym bit.
Yeah, we can see that. Right, now, one final thing for Cycling Shorts this week. We are asking you to vote on who you think is the greatest classics rider of all time.
We are. This was something that we started on the GCN Racing News show yesterday. So what we've done is picked out what we think are the 16 best classics riders of all time and pitted them against each other. So they'll be going head to head over the course of 4 rounds. But this is where you come in. You need to vote on them over on the GCN app. So ultimately it'll be you who decides the winner.
Yeah, now I couldn't help but notice one of your first round draws, Dan, is Sagan versus Merckx. Two of the big favourites coming together quite so early on. There's a big question mark over whether any current rider can even get close to Eddie Merckx, isn't there? I think we might say goodbye to Sagan early on.
Oh, you think it's going to be that easy for Merckx, do you, in the first round?
I think he's going to blow apart early on, and he's not going to be able to get in one of those echelons, and it's just going to be game over.
Well, we shall wait and see. That will be up on the app very soon, so make sure you check it out. It is now time for Hack / bodge of the week, and I can't even see if you've bodged the / there, Si.
No, do you know what's awful, mate? I'm literally going through my head right now is I still can't work out whether that's right or wrong. So, anyway,
it's only been 7 years. Yeah, moving swiftly on. The first one this week comes from Roberto Keefe. BB90 bearing press. Price of BB tools are high, so I built myself a bearing press for a British fiver.
Well, I'm looking at that frame. It's got BB90 written on it, so it's going to be a Trek, right? So that's a very nice, pretty expensive frame that you're using a homemade tool to replace the bottom brackets with. It's one of those kind of like risk-reward things, isn't it? For the sake of how much money you've saved on a bottom bracket tool, are you potentially about to write off your frame? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a funny one, that, isn't it? How you're
is.
prepared to pay so much for bike and clothing and helmet and shoes and everything else, but often skimp on the tools.
I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone for that. I have over the years bought some really rubbish tools and indeed made use without them. But still, I'm looking at that and thinking, that's not a job I want to mess up.
Well, do you know what? I'm still using the homemade chain whip. I feel like Tim the Toolman Taylor. 80% of people said that Roberto Keefe's BB press was a hack.
What?
Yeah.
A lot of people willing to risk it for, well, not very much return, really. But anyway, okay, right. No, onto Rob, who is another person who's bodging a tool. Instead of buying a quick link removal tool, which is actually one that I don't have in my personal tool collection, so my ears have pricked up at this. A copper wire with a twisting action to squeeze the link together to separate it. Yeah, there we go.
Seems like a bit of a bodge to me, so I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I think it is a bodge, isn't it, really? I mean, at the end of the day, like, how much are we talking for a quick link removal tool? Not very much, and it does make quick link removal exceedingly easy versus a piece of copper wire.
Yeah, well, also, you can just use pliers if you're really desperate. That's what I used to do. Anyway.
Well, they're a bit... yeah, I'm not sure about that, mate, but anyway.
They're completely reliable. I would say 9 times out of 10, first time for me. Anyway, the public on the GCN app voted, split down the middle size, 50-50. I don't know if we've ever had that before. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Have we? Okay. Got a better memory than I have.
Well,
right, we're going to move on to Gerbo. Who put tri-bar and 5339 chainring for this mountain bike. Worth reading this one, actually, because you put, I know sometimes hack or bodge is kind of a comedic section of the show. However, I'd really like this one to be seen as a hack, that it is. Well, we will deem that a bit, but reading on, you see, here in Mexico, we are hackers, and for some working on a budget, it's the only way to go. These situations tend to get us hacks like this one. I was talking to the guy, and his main goal was not to get dropped by the fast guys of the group that he attends. He couldn't afford a road bike, so he just got a big 5339 chainring and hacked the tri-bar. And he's got to tell us it's fast, he says.
To be fair, I totally take that on board. That is a really, really good point. The only thing that I'm thinking, Dan, is that he's got mountain bike tyres on. And if you could just find a pair of slicks, you'd go so much faster. Way faster than your aero bars.
That is very true. I take your point in this. But I do particularly like the grip shifts that he's used on the aero bars, that he can shift kind of when he's off them. He'd have to move his arms back slightly to do that. But that, for me, given the backstory, is a hack.
Yes, no, I'll agree with you that. And also, to be riding around with a 53-tooth chainring on mountain bike tyres, the guy's got some power going on. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Or some busted knees.
Yes.
Right, anyway, well, not in agreement with us, Si. Only 31% of people said that was a hack, and 69 went for bodge.
Maybe they haven't read the caption. You can't give that a bodge if you've not read the caption, surely.
Right, next up, Tenacious E in hack or bodge. Custom painted shoes. His first try, or her first try, at customising their shoes, and I would say that's a blooming good job for your first try.
Good drawing. I would imagine you're quite good at drawing in real life, Tenacious E. So good that you can translate it onto a blank canvas of shoe. That's very, very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a hack from me.
If you were going to have an animal drawn onto your shoes, or a sea creature, Dan, what would you go for?
Well, people sometimes call me the gorilla, so I'd probably go for that. They don't really, obviously.
Genius. Yeah, there we go. If anyone wants to draw a gorilla on Dan's physique shoes.
Somebody will do it. I'd like a gorilla on a pair of white physiques, please.
Genius. To be fair, unanimous almost in the GCN app. 93% hack. So there you go. That's a ringing endorsement of your octopus. There we go.
Deservedly so. Right, next week's hacks and bodges for the show are already up on the app. So go over to that app and cast your votes, and we'll go through those next week.
It's time now for Caption Competition, your chance to get your hands on a much coveted GCN Elite water bottle. Not this exact one, this is from my personal collection because I'm currently sat in my house. Anyway, this was the photo we gave you last week, so we'll start with results. This is Nicholas Arndt with, sporting the after effects of a crash, you'd assume. The winner is James Bull, who said, Nicholas is in good shape. He's ripped.
Well done, James.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Yeah, even in these dark times, you can still come out with a great caption. That's testament to your character there.
Send us your address on Facebook, James, and we'll get the bottle out to you as soon as we possibly can, which might take some time. Anyway, this week's photo, now there isn't much racing on at all at the moment, so we were restricted as to new photos. So we had a look on the GCN app and we found this from Johnny-005. As you can tell, it's the first time that Si has seen this. It's a sketch of Ollie Bridgewood. I will get you started. Ollie Bridgewood, wide-eyed and legless. Or Ollie Bridgewood, the sketchiest GCN presenter. See what I did there? Anyway, have a go in the comment section below.
What do you think Ollie's just seen there?
I don't know, a ghost, I guess is the obvious answer.
It doesn't look like he's particularly happy with whatever he's seen, but...
No. Anyway, leave your captions in the comments section below and you will be in with a chance of winning, not a used, but a brand new Elite GCN bottle. We're going to go through a few of our favourite comments from the last week before we let you know what's coming up on the channel. And we're going to start with a few from underneath last week's show. This one came in from Dave T. I just can't stop looking at that weird picture behind Si. What is that about? Whilst Dave Kinsey wrote, first impression, Si has some disturbing art. Please explain.
Well, I don't know whether you can see, but it's a self-portrait actually, and I've obviously cut the ankles off the bottom because I didn't want to be reminded of those every time I was sat watching TV. To be fair, there were some brilliant comments under last week's show actually. I was in fits, and my wife too thought the ones about me looking particularly ropey were hilarious. But all the while, this one jumped out to me from Nige Ayres, who says that his wife saw that he was watching the episode and thought that Dan looked like Hugh Jackman, Wolverine Lloydie. So maybe, mate, instead of having a gorilla on your shoes, you actually should have a Wolverine. So,
I will take that comparison every single day of the year.
Yeah,
Far
the thing is though, now you're filming at home as well. You probably don't look like Wolverine anymore. You probably look as ropey as me, or at least hopefully so.
No, I've made an effort. I mean, it's not like we have anyone doing our makeup when we're in the set side, is it? I do exactly the same thing at home as I do when I go to work.
I think it's about the lighting, mate, as much as...
Oh, I see. Like, you can actually see me now.
Yeah, exactly.
I did notice that comment had no likes from anybody, though, so maybe he's on his own, or his wife is on her own.
Well,
anyway,
yeah, that's true.
Moving on from Svartes, anyone else noticed the laundry in Si's garden disappeared when the battery died, in inverted commas? I think the real reason he left was he had to get his chores done. And Mark Astles wrote, did Si use the excuse of his battery running out to nip out and bring the washing in before somebody got home? Have you been rumbled?
I busted, absolutely busted. Well, to be fair, I didn't actually know you could see the washing hanging on the washing line.
Oh, yeah.
Which, yeah, these are the pitfalls. I did have a little tidy up and I put some stuff away, you know, that I didn't think was appropriate. Not like that, not that kind of stuff, just, you know, like, not quite so messy. Anyway, let's move swiftly on, shall we, to the beginner versus amateur versus pro Pavé edition, which was an absolute banger. And GT Hack said what many people said, which was kudos to George. Cold, wet cobbles in failing light, great effort, looked painful. And yes, to both, it did look painful and it was a superhuman effort. So thank you, George. No thanks to Connor and Ollie, that's just all in a day's work for a GCN presenter, but
exactly.
Kudos to George.
I enjoyed the thumbnail with Ollie with a big amateur thing underneath him. Anyway, moving on to the Meet the Presenters that came out at the weekend with Manon Loy, which seemed to go down very well with all of you, I have to say.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
First up, just going outside, wrote, as a former GB athlete, surely you shouldn't be out of breath when walking. To which Manon replied, walking is my weakness. Fair enough.
She's not as slow at walking as Ollie, though, so we should point that out.
She definitely would not be out of breath if she walked at Ollie's pace, would she?
No, that's true. No, Gordon Moat said it almost felt odd to see the name Lloyd and yet there not be any mention of the Cervelo test team. Good point.
That is a good point.
Very good point.
Finally, Kurt Edmonds wrote, why is she the coolest? Well, it's basically, Kurt, down to her surname. Leave it there. Right, let's get on to what's coming up on the channel this week. We'll start with Wednesday.
Oh, he's gone. He's gone to... I think Dan's gone to answer the phone. I'm not even you. Like, Lloydie has literally just hung up to go and answer his phone.
Sorry.
Dan, you're back.
Yeah, sorry, the phone went. It's Lorraine's dad.
Great. Okay, what's coming up on Wednesday, mate?
Well, on Wednesday, it's how to keep yourself motivated whilst you're working out, which can be hard at the moment. On Thursday, we're going to look at how cyclists in the pro ranks are coping with lockdown. So it's a very strange situation for them to be confined at home, but also not to know what they're training for because there are no races in the diary at the moment. So that should be very interesting indeed. And on Friday, it's Si's very own isolation challenge. So you'd better explain what's what.
Well, yeah. So I am going to try and use the next few weeks to not just stay the same, but actually try and get fitter. And I want you all to join me as well. So nothing ridiculous. I'm going to do 4 workouts a week. Saturday, this is a cool one, isn't it, Dan? I'm really looking forward to this. It's a bit of GCN story. Obviously, confinement and social isolation, a bit of time to think, haven't we? And actually the fact that we just passed 2 million subscribers, so we thought we'd do a bit of a look back into GCN's history.
Yeah, find out why Lasty's called the Brick.
I think you're funny.
Well, indeed. And then Sunday, basically we suggested that Hank spend 24 hours on an indoor trainer on Zwift, and bizarrely he's agreed. So we're going to find out what happens.
There's so many questions we ask Hank thinking, well, he's going to say no to that, surely. And he's like, yeah, definitely, up for that.
I know. Bonkers. But there we go. Let's see how Hank gets on.
Nearing the end of the show now, which means it's time for Extreme Corner. This week, we are going to hand over to our friends at EMBN. Now, in the past, they've already managed to ride up the slab over in Bristol. They then did the Rock in Wales, but they got a bit more adventurous a few weeks ago and headed abroad to Malaga to take on a 100-metre high climb with an average grade or an average angle of 46 degrees.
Ooh.
We'll see how we go. Right, so just on the first part, to get out of the saddle because it is pretty intense. The wind isn't much fun either. Definitely looking, oh my God. So that was my gears jumping in. Don't want to be doing that on this either.
Ooh. Yeah, that does look steep, doesn't it?
It is quite steep, yeah.
It is. Now, here's a question, Dan. With your amazing sprint power, do you think you could actually ride up there?
No, and I don't think I could ride down it either.
I think the gorilla of the New Forest could probably ride up there. But anyway, yeah, fair play to him. That if you drop it up there, you're going to be sliding a long way back down, aren't you? It's going to really scratch your paintwork.
Yeah, and not as fun as the slides we used to have as kids.
No, indeed not. Right, that is unfortunately the end of the GCN show for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. You seemed to enjoy last week's, which was good, and there was an awful lot of absolutely cracking banter in the comment section. So yeah, please get involved. And yeah, like I said earlier, Dan, I'm just hoping that you look as ropey as I do now without the professional lighting.
But, well, you should soon see. Right, stay healthy, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Cheers, all.
See you, Si.
See you, mate.